Can you live comfortably for $1,000 or less in Bali? We're gonna find out now. We're gonna start with the housing. My name is Will. I teach people how to be digital marketers and marketing analysts and get their first career in it. Right now, I am living and working in Bali, Indonesia. We're gonna find out today. We're gonna start off with the Airbnb I'm staying. So I'm staying here for a week. But if I were to stay here for a month, I did talk to the landlord, and you can get a local monthly discount. So I found out the price for that is about $500 per month. Now, granted, this place is not beachfront, and it's about a 5 to 10 minute commute to the beach, depending on traffic. Traffic here can get pretty bad, but that's still not too bad. I get this giant king size bed, super comfy, scents from the incense table. I got this work desk, a little locker to lock anything valuable, this mirror, and then here's just like a pretty standard, nothing fancy, like shower. I've decided to move closer to the beach in Canggu. That's where all the action's happening. That's where one person recommended. He said I was too far away from everything. So it just depends on if you're just trying to save as much money as possible, or if you don't mind like a 10 to 15 minute commute to everything. So I'm staying a bit north, and so I don't have any problems with it, but I do feel like it's much better to be just closer to all the activity, have a less of a commute to get everywhere, because there's not much happening where I am right now. I'll show you outside later. It's just not much going on. So that's about $500 a month. You're probably looking at $500 to $700 a month on the low end, and that's if you can find a good deal. If you get something well in advance, you can find more good deals. I got this thing like a couple weeks before I arrived, so I didn't look far in advance. If I did, I probably could have found more deals. I was just lucky to find this final deal before everything was booked out. But yeah, you're probably looking at, I got a really good price here, $500 a month. It's not like that. Most of the things I've seen on Airbnb, you're looking at like $700-800, all the way up to like $3,000 a month. There's like a lot of fancy places here. Okay, the next big thing are miscellaneous costs, like this probiotic, insect repellent, Listerine, and bottled water. These are costs that people forget to factor in. Probiotic, this is about $60. Why do you get it? Well, there's this really nasty thing here called Bali belly, and as a preventative measure, I'm taking those. You can get it from the water, you can get it from drinking tap water, using tap water, bad meals at suspicious restaurants, all this stuff. Listerine apparently can also be helpful after brushing your teeth. Insect repellent, there's dengue fever and mosquitoes and stuff here that can get you, so definitely get mosquito spray. These are all things that like I learned from experienced travelers here. Most tourists don't even consider them until they get the disease. I would say $60 a month. Bottled water is cheap. This is about like 50 cents each, maybe $1, depending on which convenience store you get it at. So that's about $15 a month for that, $75. This probably cost me like $3.78. I probably have to get a couple of these. So like, you know, $83 a month. Let's just round up to 100 because you may have more supplies you need. I had to buy a universal travel adapter, so that brings me to 93. So about $100 a month on miscellaneous but necessary utilities and pharmaceuticals. So that brings the total up to about $600 per month. Let's go outside and I'll show you around. All right, so here's the lobby of the place I'm staying, and then we're gonna go out funky. As you can see, there's some really cool fish over there. I actually feel a little bit bad. I had to talk to the landlord, and she was like asking about whether I wanted to stay for a month, and I basically told her, you know, while I really like it, you know, I just feel like it's too far from the beach, but it's my decision to make whether to book or not, so I can't feel too bad. And yeah, this is kind of how it is. If you don't mind like cutting costs, you can kind of live here. And I was going back and forth, you know, should I live closer to the beach? Should I not? But it's just like a random street. There's a ton of like restaurants and stuff, but it's not as social, it's not as walkable as if you were to go live near the beachfront. If you were to live near the beachfront, of course the price is going to jump up. You could probably find something for $800 to $1,000 on the low end. So what are the expenses? Well, first off, sunscreen. I just put on a bunch of sunscreen. Another big thing is transportation. As you can see, tons of mopeds are the common route of transportation here. So what exactly should you do? Well, I actually prefer taking a Grab. Grab is like Uber here, wherever I go. I can get a Grab ride on a moped to everything local here, which for me is just like gym, food, beach, for about $1 per ride. Maybe $2 if it's a longer ride, which is not that bad. Every day I probably take about 2 rides, maybe 3 or 4 if I'm going to more places. I recommend walking, but just for your health, but up to you. Now, many people decide to rent a scooter for a month or a week. The costs are comparable, so you're probably paying around $60 to $100 to rent a scooter. So up to you. I prefer taking a Grab because I feel it's safer. They know these roads better, and it's, you know, I don't know about driving a scooter myself. Let's just round up conservatively to 100, and now you're at about $700 per month. So another big expense that you can't forget is food. Now, I would say I've been able to get some good entrees at restaurants for around $4 each. This is a bit of a fancy place. It's a top Thai place people recommend all my time. And you can kind of see here that the entree prices are everywhere from $55,000 to maybe $80,000, $95,000 per item. Maybe 70,000. So we're talking anywhere between like $3 to like $7. Now I'm a big eater, so I can usually eat 2 entrees here. Portion sizes are a bit smaller than what you'd expect in American meals. So on average, I end up spending around $10 to $15 on food. Now, if you're not as big a eater as me, I'm above average, then you might be able to get away with one pad thai, which I think is still pretty comparable to like an American size. Also, this is more of a fancy restaurant. You can eat at like the local street stalls by locals, and you could be just spending $1 to $3. Now, the risk of doing that is there's higher chance of less consistency with how they cook the food. You may get food poisoning or Bali belly. So this is why I'm eating here. But as you can see, with each of these things, if you really wanted to cut costs to the bone, like Alex Hormozy says, you could in fact, you know, live off $1 to $3 per meal, and hence like $6 a day in food. But for me, I kind of like the more safer, fancier restaurants, and just for my health and like not getting sick. If you wanted to, you could spend a lot on food at very expensive restaurants. $10 a day on food, so that's about $300 per day. So now we're already looking at $1,000. Now let's move on to activities that we're going to be spending. This is an example of some food I'm eating here. This is mango sticky rice, which is a dessert, paying about $4 for this. All right, so now we're on to activities that you can do in Bali, because sometimes you want to do something fun and it may cost some money rather than just eat, work, and sleep. So of course there's the beach, which is free. You can just walk on it, you can swim in it. The weather's really nice. Right now it's cloudy, but usually it's really good weather this time of year. Another thing that you can do, and these are very popular activities in Bali, is paddle, yoga, or a martial arts class. Look at that doggy. Now, some people do other things here in Bali. I'm still not plugged in enough to the cultures and figure out what else they do, but I think it's mostly just surfing and then like paddle and yoga. But I feel like there's other stuff like partying and like other stuff. But let's break down the cost if you were to choose one or more of these activities. So for me, I like martial arts. So I went ahead and I bought a membership to this martial arts place. What's it called? Bali Lions MMA. And so I got the weekly pass, which is $30 per week plus $15 in rental of gear. So about $45 a week, which is it's expensive, but realize that if you were to simply move up to the monthly tier, and like all these things, you want to hack it to get the cost low. If you move up to the monthly tier, it's $60 per month plus, gear rental. So let's just say like $75, $80 per month for martial arts. And I actually would peg, let's say, doing yoga or paddle in a similar area. So, for example, a drop-in yoga class here, I looked it up online. It's about $4 per class. If you get some type of monthly or annual membership, that, cost can drop per usage from like $4 per usage to like maybe $2, $3 per yoga class. So let's say you take like 4 classes a week at $3, that's about $12. 12 times 4 a month, 48. So $50 per month on yoga. So depending on the activity, whether it's paddle or yoga or something else, we're saying roughly around $50 to $100 per one activity. Now you may be crazy, and I'm even considering this, doing more than one thing. Like I might do martial arts mostly, but I might sprinkle in a yoga class or paddle class. So it can go up from there. As far as surfing, they do offer surf lessons. The beaches here in Bali are perfect for beginners. But if you don't want to pay for classes, you just need to rent or buy a board, and then you can surf for free and learn on your own. So there's also that. So when you put this all together, let's just say you're spending around $100 a month minimum on picking up a couple fitness workout. Let's just say you're spending $100 per month on activities. And then the last thing is co-working. Co-working, so right now we're at $1,100 per month. Co-working spaces, those can be pretty useful. Now, you could, in theory, just work at your work desk in your room, like I showed you. The issue with that is, it is basically you're working alone and lonely all the time. If you want to cut costs, you can do that. The internet is incredible where I'm staying. But I do think that there's a lot of networking benefits to co-working, meeting people, socializing, making friends. That's good for your mental health as well. So co-working spaces, they range in cost depending on which package you purchase and where you go. There's a ton of co-working spaces with blazing fast internet here. There's even one where you can go to for free as long as you buy a drink, like a coconut drink or something. So on the low end, you could be paying like $3 per visit. So that's still about $100. And then on the higher end, maybe it's $6. So you're probably paying $100 to $200, assuming you're working like at least 5 days a week. So all in all, I would say let's just peg it at $100 a month for co-work, assuming like you don't need it that much. So now we're at $1,200 already, past the $1,000 limit. When we're already cutting things as low as possible, such as basically no You'll see why I got distracted in a second. Basically, on the right there, no, you're basically cutting costs really low, and you're doing that by essentially doing all the things, buying things monthly, negotiating for a local monthly rent in person with the landlord versus just buying online with the transaction fees and the Airbnb platforms. And you're doing all of this, and you're at $1,200 a month, assuming you want to have activities. Okay, so we're at $1,200. The last big thing is gym. Now, for me, I'm already doing a martial arts class, so I don't necessarily need to double up on the gym, but I'm still considering it. Now, gym costs are actually very comparable to costs in Western countries. On the low end, you're going to be paying like $40 per month for a pretty mediocre gym. On the high end, you're going to be paying $150 to $200 per month for a gym. And those gyms will have all the fancy stuff. Saunas, ice baths, ice plunges, really fancy rooms. All the things that you would expect from a high-end gym. So, I would say you could probably skip the gym if you're already doing yoga or surfing or some other physical activity, but I just wanted to throw that out there as an option because some people do actually prefer those activities. So, we're looking at roughly $1,200 per month. And so, what's my conclusion here? My conclusion here is that, yes, you can survive, but not that comfortably or not that much of an interesting life off $1,000 per month. It can be done. What you have to do is you're going to have to find the cheapest, but still like agreeable Airbnb, book it in advance, negotiate for a monthly discount. And with that, you can get a really ridiculous deal for like, let's say, $500 on the low end per month. You'll be kind of staying outside of the city, outside of the beach by like 5 to 10 minutes commute at least, but that could still be worth it. If you cut out all the activities that cost money, like yoga classes, martial arts classes, all that stuff, and co-working spaces, and then you work at either the place you're staying already or one of the more affordable cafes where you don't have to pay for the co-working space. You simply have to just go there and, buy a drink. You're basically cutting out a bunch of costs. So you're basically cutting out, $100 worth of activities cost, maybe more, $200. You could swim for free. And then you're cutting out co-working costs and just working from your home or a cafe, that'll cut costs. And then if you cut down on the restaurants you eat, you either cook yourself because there's plenty of grocery stores here, or you find the more local, affordable markets, which can be a bit riskier for things like Bali belly and other types of sickness. When you do all those things together, you will get to a point where you are able to now essentially live under $1,000 per month. Heck, you could cut out some of the probiotic too if you want to take a risk. And then, yes, you can do it. Your major costs are going to be food and accommodations. Now, of course, I don't necessarily recommend slumming it that much, which is why I do think a $1,500 per month budget in Bali will make you a lot more comfortable. If you have 2,000, then you're living like a king. And that kind of dispels the myth for me, because I didn't know much about Bali, and I heard the rumors about how you can basically live like a king off nothing. And I haven't really found that to be exactly true. You can live decently well for not much, but not like a king. But if you're talking like 2,000 or more per month that you're willing to spend, well, lucky you. I think you could live like a king. You can live at some really fancy accommodations, beachfront properties like the one behind me. And then that's when you're living the good life. I don't think the idea should be to essentially cut costs as low as possible and torture yourself, but to earn more money, find more ways of increasing your value and skill to the world so that you can come here and actually thrive and enjoy it rather than suffer. Can you do it? Yes, even during the high peak season. Yes, it is possible, but you are probably going to have to cut down a little bit here and there on food, on accommodations a bit, on leisurely activities, and all those things that may actually be enjoyable to you, but also lead to further connections that could be helpful for you in the future. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to see future content like this. And also there's a free email newsletter down below where I offer free coaching sessions as well as paid coaching sessions on how to get your first or second job as a digital marketer or marketing analyst and increase your income.